Sorry.
No, yeah. Right this side.
Well, sorry to delay you at all. I'm still kind of waiting on my one nephew, who had said he might be here today. So, thank you all for coming, trying to get the information correct. I'd like to state a couple things to start with. One, we certainly have positively identified my sister. There's no variance in it. It's 100%, so there's nothing to not accept as fact. There's a little misunderstanding regarding some comments that have been made about the cause of death. There is one. I'm not going to be talking about it. That's up to the authorities to discuss that issue, and I'm sure they will be. This has been as you know, a damn long effort. The issue has been a lot of hard work by authorities, by my family, by hundreds and hundreds of people. You know, the old story goes, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And there's certainly been a little luck here. And it's so damn lucky, I'm not sure there wasn't some divine interference, but we'll see, okay? The point of it is we've gotten here with having found her body. It's bittersweet at best, but it is certainly needed, and it was honestly unexpected after 3.5 years. But again, we got lucky with maybe some divine interference that maybe helped us. All during this period of time, the centerpiece of what we've done has been based on truth. It's been based on finding the truth, getting the facts, and then striving for justice. And that's what we've really accomplished here. We got the last leg to get done, and that's the justice part. But we have stuck to the truth. We've stuck to the facts. And although we've been criticized up and down and around by lots of people, we've only functioned with those two factors, and then we're expecting to get justice, and I believe we will. There's so many people that deserve credit. The Justice for Dee group. I'm sorry. I wasn't planning on doing that. These people have been beyond anything loyal, fought hard, given up time, money, everything for the cause they believe in. There's been thousands of people who have sent prayers and good wishes, people we know, people we don't know, people we feel like we know, and also very grateful for them. And they've certainly helped. Of course, most of all, my family and friends, my immediate family, my wife Shelley, my son Parker, have probably some of you have picked up what a cantankerous guy I am, so they deserve all the thanks for that. Tolerating me has been, excuse me, a lot of work. There's been extended family. Catherine Adams over here has certainly been an extended family member. She has worked tirelessly, not only with the Justice for Dee group, but I can't tell you how many times I've asked her to do things, and there's never been any hesitation, and for that we appreciate it. Another real close person in this for my sister, and not been talked about much, is what was her assistant at the office. And Stephanie Vogel has stood by my sister from the very beginning, stayed at the office, fought for her, put up with Warner when she was still there, and she carried on. And to this day. So, and she's given up a lot with her family because of this, and it's been horrendous on her. So thanks to her. You all know, you've heard it's in the press a number of times. The guy that's been special on this has been Billy Little, and his buddy Chris McDowell. He was the first here as a professional when we had no professional standing by us, and he gave us courage. He gave us knowledge. He's an experienced guy in this thing. We had no experience. And he deserves special attention because of what he did for us and what he did for this cause. His friend Chris McDowell is behind the scenes. You've not seen much of him, but his psychological analysis, because he was a psychological analysis person for the LA Police Department, has been very important to us. One moment, please. Sorry, I dropped my own notes. There's been so many tips that have been given by people in the community just to try to help, and they've been very, very good, and some of them have been very, very important in this investigation. I'd like to point them out as having been a special part of this. And then, you know, we have the criminal side to face yet. We faced a horrible situation on the civil side, but where we had to fight Warner every step of the way, from not only taking my sister's life, but trying to take financially everything away from her. And as you probably, and many of you have been there, you've sat through it, you know how miserable it's been. But I'd like to give a thank you to Catherine Sulla as a judge. I don't know her personally, but she sat there for hours listening to lies and deceit from not only Warner but his lawyers, trying to take everything there was financially away from my sister. And that's horrendous. And I'd like to commend her as a judge. She put up with it, tolerated it, and sorted it out. And I believe was extremely just, and I don't think there's anyone to disagree with that. So for her, I thank you. And Judge Firzauer, who presided over the preliminary hearing, which is obviously history now, came in as a visiting judge when other judges weren't able to hear it or couldn't hear it or didn't want to hear it, and sorted out so many different factors from just a total mirage of facts, of untrue facts and deceit, and gave a judgment that was allowing or bound Mr. Warner over for trial. That's without the information we had now. So for that, we appreciate her judicial behavior and her professionalism. And again, I don't know her either, never met her. Kind of wrap this up. It was certainly tough for the family to face my sister's remains in a man-made tomb done by Dale Warner, who was a very evil piece of human debris. And if you didn't like that, you wouldn't want to know what I really want to call him. So he viciously killed my sister with no remorse, continued to have no remorse, damaged his family, damaged the community, and most importantly, he fed his own daughter terrible lies about her sisters, their family. And I don't know, for me, that's almost up in there with killing someone when you do that to a little girl intentionally. Knowingly what he did, he continued to do that. That's unexcusable, and that's what gets him to the highest level of evil. And I certainly hope that he faces the absolute maximum penalty under the law after he's had a fair and just trial, if that's what he chooses. With that, I'd like to conclude by thanking you for coming. My niece, Raquel is here. I'd like her to be able to address you, please, if you don't mind. Raquel, please. Just say a few things.
On behalf of my siblings, we just want to thank everybody for the continued support. We cannot begin to thank you guys enough for sticking by our side and believing in us when we didn't want to believe in ourselves anymore. We just couldn't begin to thank you guys enough. So, thank you.
If you have questions, we're happy to field them. I'm not sure that you would after this, but if you do, we're happy to answer them.
We know there's more coming after the trial, but for you and for the family, what does justice continue to look like as we head into this next chapter?
Well, it's a precarious chapter, obviously. We certainly don't know. The police have certainly not shared all the evidence with me or any of us. I know they're steadfast in the quantity of their evidence. We have the evidence that we know, which was contributing to a potential wrongful death suit. It was contributing to a no-body homicide. I think it should be I'm anxious if they want to have a trial, and I fully suspect they will. And if they do, bring it on. More than ready. I would love for the public to be able to know everything that I know about this horrendous situation. This is totally premeditated, in my opinion. To kill your wife and tomb her in a steel tube to attempt to hide her forever from not only the public and other, but maybe from some of his family members who may or may not have knowledge. That's insane. I mean, that's a huge, very, very evil person to do that. I mean, you obviously have no remorse if you can do that. So I think it'll be a pretty strong trial, and I can't wait.
Give me a sense of the emotion you felt when you got the notification.
Well, as you can see, I have a hard time dealing with my emotion to start with. We were together. The officer was very courteous to us, Sergeant Drewer, to come here privately at 8:30 Friday night with some early images. And so the family was called in, and that's very respectful of them to do that. And our emotion was very high. It was just disbelief. It was, I guess I hate to say it this way, but there's some joy and relief that after all that effort and all that time and all that attempt to deceive us, I think it was, those are the big emotions that popped out.
One more question is for me. You waited 3 years, but there are families out there that are still waiting, and they have waited for 4, 5, 6 years. What message do you want to give them to not give up in their fight too?
Well, that's a very good question, and I know people often say it's a very good question, but that really is a very good question. It's something that has been top of mind for us, quite frankly, and something we'd like to continue to try to support. It is, the first of all, I think you just can't ever give up. The odds are stacked against you. In my opinion, the system is not as friendly to the victims as it should be by any stretch of the imagination. The lack of willingness to corroborate some things at some point in an investigation become very important. Some corroboration was very important in moving this one forward. And so for those people, don't give up. You got to keep reaching for resources. We've had all kinds of time in this steep climb we've had where we would hit feels like a cement wall and almost push us back down. And then we come up with a new idea and rekindle it and start back up that mountain again. And so they have to do that, and for some of them, we're lucky. We have resources. We have tenacity. We have a hard-headed asshole like me. It was a community, you know. We're, 20,000 strong that we know of, okay? And then there's all the people who aren't involved with something like that. I can't tell you how many retired police officers, retired investigators, over the course of 3.5 years have voluntarily called me, who I don't even know, and try to add something to keep us going. Because with the information put out on the press, thank you very much, other people saw it, and then they build on that, and they tried to help. And they did help. It wasn't trying. But they took the first step to call or do something to be a good human being. I'll give you one other example, which was due to the press. There's a lady who's a government employee, whose name I will not mention, who was a tip, who actually exposed the fact that Dale Warner, Mark Weisberg, his accomplice, forged my sister's name and used her ID to actually extract $1.5 million from all of you taxpayers, and then he put it in the bank and transferred it into his own name. Okay, that was proven. This isn't something I'm just talking about. That's not alleged. It's factual, and it's because a lady who didn't even know us, who works for the federal government, felt there was dishonesty taking place here, and she called and gave us that information. That's the kind of thing that people need to use to advance their cause.
We know also that you had your suspicions about the tank for a while. How does it feel now that they finally took a look inside and this is all over?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part of that.
We know you had your suspicions about the tank for a while where she was found.
Yeah.
But how does it feel that they were able to look and now this is the result that she's found?
You know, that's part of really good police work, and people, we talked about just a minute ago, staying with it. My son noticed this tank. I noticed the tank, because remember, we were integrally involved with my sister's operation. It wasn't like my land borders them, right? So when we saw that, we were suspicious only because, to start with, at the time we weren't very far down the road, 2 days into this. The thing that made us stick in our brain to remember it was the fact that it was so out of character for Warner to be doing what he was doing. And had we not known him personally and known his habits, which obviously the investigators wouldn't know, right? But we knew those habits, we knew those traits that he showed, and we kept it in our brains for 3.5 years. And we did mention it to the authorities, and but then when other information corroborated something to make us think about that, we then took a deep dive. It was kind of a desperation dive, quite frankly. I mean, here we are 3.5 years, probably spent well over $1 million in taxpayer money looking for my sister, plus what we've spent privately. And so we're getting desperate. The circle's getting smaller. And so we've alleviated so many things, it made us think about that. And then when they were able to corroborate our thoughts, that's what led to this, and it was very productive, obviously.
Unfortunately, in the world we're living in currently, and we have always lived in, something like this could happen again in Lenawee County. And I remember you had mentioned, before the case was turned over to Michigan State Police, that you had a lot of frustration with the Sheriff's Office. Do you feel that after this case, they've improved enough to handle something like this in the future if it were to happen again?
Well, thank you for asking that, because actually you got me back on script after I've kind of simmered my emotion down, okay? And I wanted to say something when I was congratulating some public people and thanking them at least. Deputy Hall, who is a Lenawee County Sheriff's deputy, still to my knowledge. I don't know him personally, but it was revealed in court documents, as many of you know, who watched the hearings, the civil hearings, and watched the declaration of death hearing. He was the first guy to interview Warner, okay? And as you may know, and I'm sure you do, that the body cam footage of the interview with Warner was played in court, so it's public record. In addition, I had the opportunity, I believe it's public record, but I had the opportunity to see his report, his written report, to his superiors on the day that he interviewed him on body cam. He deserves way more credit than the rest of the people there at that department, because he is the only person who his gut feeling, if he reported in writing, was suspicious of what he was seeing and hearing from Warner. Had that been followed up maybe more severely, we might have an earlier outcome. It would be the same outcome, but we might have an earlier outcome and maybe 3 years less of pain, okay? But those people, he deserves some credit. If I were a sheriff for a day, I would promote him and I would demote several others. That's just how I feel about it. Anyone else? Yes.
So, you've had a memorial service for Dee. Do you plan to do something else now that you have something to have names?
I'm sorry.
Yes, we do. We do plan on having a family burial service at her gravesite.
As many of you know, we had a formal celebration after we received the declaration of death judgment from the court, and it was a great celebration. And lots of people had nice, funny stories to tell about Dee. And but now that we have this, and we have a marker for her and a grave site that's next to my mother and father here in the Franklin Township Cemetery.
You think now she can finally rest properly?
Sorry?
You think now she can finally rest properly?
Yeah, it's you know, what a ride. Okay, what, you know, her spirit has help me. Her spirit's gone a long ways.
I know you said it was a relief earlier, but is this finally closure for your family?
Yeah.
altogether?
Well, it's closure on finding her remains and being able to say the final farewell, put her in truly the proper resting place. You know, it's horrendous to think about a human being doing what he did to another human being for their final resting place. I mean, that's just absolutely beyond horrendous. And it puts that closure on. But we remember, we still have a conviction that has to take place here. And the idea that this guy, as I tried to reiterate when I was having trouble controlling my emotions, was the fact that here we have irreparable harm that's been done to so many people, to his own wife, to his own family, to his own little girl. If that isn't beyond the need of the most severe punishment possible, then I don't know what we are as a civilized society if that's not true.
I've spoken to a lot of your family members throughout this case, and one thing I've noticed is you guys have been able to maintain your strength in this case. Is this something that you guys were obviously had to adjust to quickly? And so kind of talk about having a transition into more so the advocate role while also balancing the fact that this is deeply emotional.
Well, you know, being able to sustain like we have has to have that emotional support, right? I mean, if we didn't have that, we probably couldn't get there. As an advocate, you know, it's an emotional scar we're going to wear forever that we have from what's happened to us, and so hopefully that will help us help other people. That's a major goal. You know, I had someone say to me the other day, you know, they were very kind, and they said, you know, what this shows is this could happen to any woman in this community, and for that reason, then everybody should be aware. And if doing this can help make someone aware, you know, my sister is a very strong person. She's probably dead because she thought she could fix this guy. She thought she could stand up to him and have an impact and hold her family together. That strength she used. Unfortunately, that probably was the strength that caused her death because of this animal. So if you're gonna leave, just leave. Don't confront them, because you don't know what they'll do. She sure as the world didn't know this guy would do this, right? So for those people who are facing those situations, and I'm not trying to be a counselor here, but it's the facts. We witnessed it. I personally had no idea of what happens with people like this, like my sister. I mean, she had places to go, but sometimes people say, well, they don't have anywhere to go. Not in her case, because she thought she could deal with it. She was a strong woman. She didn't want to face social embarrassment. All of those things contributed to her standing there and fighting with this piece of trash. So if you're in that situation, don't be afraid to leave it. Thank you for asking, though. Yes, sir.
Can you disclose what test ID'd her? I know the autopsy couldn't, but do you know which one did?
Yes, it was a positive, 100% positive dental record ID. There were other contributing factors, but the one that the medical examiner used, so that he had no question whatsoever, 100% certain, were the medical records, or whether were dental records.
Okay. And you're still taking tips in this case? Correct?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's not shot yet, they're still working.
Absolutely taking tips on this case. They're actively pursuing a number of things as we speak. And I know that for sure because I've been told that this morning, so I know that's a fact.
Okay. And then one more from me, Greg. The trial date is set for early September.
Yeah.
Is it safe to assume that's going to be moved?
Yeah, you don't know what's going to happen. The process, or the defense attorney is certainly the wild card. You know, it would be nice if we would just face up. As you may have known that a long time ago, I said to Mr. Warner, you're the person that can alleviate all this pain. You can stop the suffering for your family. You can stop all this for the whole community and for your little girl and for my sister. All you have to do is stand up and be a man. Obviously didn't happen. I don't see it happening now either.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So you confirm that tips are still being accepted, but to your knowledge, are there any other people being looked at in this case, or anyone that you maybe approached law enforcement about?
I have no knowledge of what their investigations with other people. In my opinion, there's been plenty of people who have participated in knowing something. I don't know for sure what that is, but it's been 3.5 years. So I can tell you for sure that accomplices in the civil activity were certainly Mark Weisberg, without any question, who already was a convicted felon, and other people that have been involved were certainly contributed on the civil side. There's no doubt about that. That's in the proofs. That's in public record. And this Todd Nerick guy, who my sister went out of her way to help, is certainly extremely suspicious to me on the civil side. But I do hope, by the way, that they continue to focus that, because I would like to see that thoroughly examined. Are we good?
Throughout this process, friends and family have said, that they're using their voice on behalf of Dee because she can't use her voice right now. So
Lily, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
sorry. I'll talk louder. So throughout this process, friends and family have said that they're using their voice for Dee because she can't right now. They're speaking louder than she would have been able to also. What does this whole process kind of look like for you, using your voice, speaking out, and do you think there's anything that Dee would say today?
That she would say? My sister would say a lot. Let's put it that way. And she would say it very loudly. It might be in your face. It might be hugging you. Okay? Am I right? But she would be totally astounded by all of you and all the people. Fair enough?
I absolutely agree, and definitely for you.
She's sweet. She was such a people person. She wanted everybody to be her friend, and she acted that way all the time. And she would be just over the top about the fact that people would care this much for her. Yeah, thank you for asking.
On the other side of that, is there anything you would want to tell her now that, these past 3.5 years, this has been a long process for where it stands today?
The first part, I'm sorry?
Is there anything that you would want to tell her?
Oh, yeah. I'd like to kick her in the butt for staying there, okay? the you know, there's a that side of it, and there's a very sad side. We certainly like to tell her we love her very much. I think that covers it when we say we love her very much. Thanks. I'm sorry.
Real quick, because this will be shared within our stations, just your names, say and spell your first and last names for us.
My what?
Say and spell your first and last names for us.
I'm Greg Hardy, Gregghardy, Dee's brother.
Raquel Bach, Rikkellbock, Dee's youngest adult daughter.
Thank you all very much. We appreciate your help in keeping this story alive. And most importantly, want to make sure that the facts are right and how we really feel about this, so there's no misunderstanding about who's saying what. This is what it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.